it's hot. Welcome everybody, welcome back to Homestead Heart. Y'all stay hydrated. Y'all, I am out here working in the big garden. It's more humid than hot. It's hot, but I think it's more humid than it is hot. And I got my water jug. I am drinking water. Whew. You all, but I'm out here getting some work done in the garden, and I'm gonna take a break real quick before we get back to planting. Okay, now well, actually, how about we finish planting and then talk? Want to get this out the way, actually, to tell you the truth. I just stopped to drink some water real quick, and then I'm going to get this planting done and then come back over here so we can talk, okay? But in the meantime and in between time, y'all come on, walk with me. Let's get on over here and get this planted. We still have to do a garden tour. Everything is growing so fast, right? The tomatoes are almost big enough for me to put a to start trellising them, getting them attached to the trellis. So Mrs. H, what are you planting? I tell you. I'm planting, let me put these in my other pocket. I'm planting the Royal Burgundy bush type green bean. And then of course I'm planting my favorite, the strike green bean. Okay, now we're going to talk more about this, but I do want to just take a break from the heat real quick, but not before I finish getting these beans planted. Okay, so y'all stay with me. Let's get our green beans planted. And then we're gonna talk about these green beans and why I love them so much. Okay, all right, y'all, let's do this. Hey bud, I think I've already planted most of those. I have. Oh no, I done this. Jeez. All right, let's get out of the heat. Let's get out of the heat. Oh my goodness, y'all. That did not take very much time at all. And if you all have stuck with me while I planted that 50-foot row of green beans, I actually already had quite a few planted because some of them had already come up. But for the most part, you saw the strike and you saw that it had not come up. Where's my cushion? There we go. And you saw that the strike had not come up yet, right? And actually, this was actually my second time planting those strike beans, you all. Now, I planted them back in April. Today is May 8th. I don't think this video is going to come out today or the next couple of days even, because I have some other footage that I want to share with you all. And so I think that this hat does a wonderful job doubling down as a fan. But you all, I planted the beans, the entire green bean row. I planted it back in April. Y'all, I feel like I'm yelling. Y'all know I don't like feeling like I'm yelling. Come on down here with me. Come on down here. There we go. Talk. Come on down here with me so we can talk. All right. Okay. So, remember I planted those green beans back in April when we thought we were going to be beyond the cool temps and the warmer temps were coming, and we had warm temps in the forecast. Y'all, I got some in my eye. In the forecast for at least those 14 days, we had nothing but warm temps. But that forecast changed, and then all of a sudden we were down in the low 40s. And I was like, oh my goodness. When I saw that, I said to Mr. H, I said, the green beans are not going to be happy about this at all. And sure enough, you all, the Royal Burgundy bush beans, they had spotty germination because of the cooler temps. To be honest, I was surprised that any of them came up, but those that did, I was very impressed that they came up even in the cooler temperatures. Some of them did not. None of the strike came up. In fact, when I pulled the soil back originally to have a look at the beans, many of them had sprouted, but because of those cool temperatures, they literally just kind of like was withering away under the soil. So many of them had sprouted, but they just, after those cool temps, they just couldn't do anything. I think perhaps if they would have had a few more days before the cooler temps had hit to emerge from the soil, I think they probably would have been okay. But y'all, they were still under that cold, wet soil from the rain and the cold temps. They couldn't do anything, right? And of course, I wasn't going to take a chance on just hoping that they would go ahead and come up anyway. No, after temperatures like that, I was perfectly fine to replant completely. I wasn't going to risk them coming up and still not producing. I wouldn't have wanted that, right? So you all, what I did was today I went back and you saw me replant all of the strike in just a few of the Royal Burgundy bush bean, which I'm very excited to try. I've never tasted the Royal Burgundy bush before, but let's see, I think it's one of our viewers or either one of our neighbors or somebody said that it is a delicious green bean and that I would love it. Now, I do have jade green beans that I'm planting over in the smaller garden. I'm going to plant a smaller row of those green beans, because I do love that flavor. They remind me of a French type of a green bean, and they do have an excellent flavor. However, they're not as prolific in production as the strike. The strike green beans, they taste like a green bean. There's nothing fancy about them or anything. When you cook them, they're gonna taste like green beans. However you season them, they're gonna taste like those seasoned green beans, right? There's nothing fancy about them at all. But the one thing that I truly appreciate about the strike is that they are such heavy producers. I have grown many different varieties of green beans over the years, right? And I've pretty much always planted everything the same way I'm doing now. I don't do very much different today than I've done in years past. I would say the only things I've done differently was maybe added the azomite to the garden and the black cow to the garden in recent years, but everything else has always been the same. Blood and bone meal, that's all I've ever used, right? Or fish emulsion. Those have always been my go-to fertilizers and the composted chicken manure. I've never done anything different over the years, and I've always had great success in growing crops in the garden, right? And so to grow green beans over the years for me and in my area now, the strike has been the most prolific green bean. If you have not seen us harvest the green beans, you all, I will leave a link to that video at the end of this one. I think that video, my granddaughter and I, that was the harvest video. But there's also a video where my granddaughter and I canned those green beans along with some Yukon Gold potatoes. We canned them up, right? But we harvested, Mr. H and I harvested so many green beans. Harvested so many green beans. I mean, just gallons of them, right? And to tell you the truth, you all, when you harvest a lot of green beans like that and you're putting them away, we had a 1-year supply with all of those green beans. That was it. It probably looked like a whole lot in the video, but that literally was just enough green beans and potatoes for 1 year, or maybe a year and a month or two, right? Because if you have family gatherings and all of that, you're gonna open up some jars of green beans. But Mr. H and I love the green beans and potatoes. In fact, that's our favorite way to eat them. We hardly ever just eat green beans. Now, I've canned green beans by themselves, but even in canning them by themselves, I would probably make a casserole out of them. But to just empty a jar, heat it up and eat it, we prefer the green beans and the potatoes together. To us, that's just amazing flavor. So if we do it that way this year, our green bean harvest may take us further than a year if we can harvest the same, about 17 to 20 gallons, and then add potatoes. That probably would take us about a year to go through all of those, or a little better, right? If we don't have functions. And actually, we're getting ready to have a family barbecue here soon. And then, of course, when the grandbabies come too, we eat more when the grandbabies come. We eat a lot more when they come, because that little grandbaby, oh, and then that older one, boy, they can eat. Them boys can put some food away, okay? So, you all, the strike green bean, for no other reason, it tastes good, don't get me wrong, like I said, it tastes like a green bean. For no other reason than it is a prolific producer, hands down for us, the best producing plants that are green beans that we have ever grown. Now, when I plant my green bean seeds, I always put 3 seeds in a hole, always. Sometimes all 3 of them germinate, sometimes only 2 of them will sprout, right? But in any case, if all 3 of them germinate and I got 3 plants growing out of a hole, so what? That's fine. It's not a problem, right? They all grow just fine, growing together, right? So if you're growing green beans, whether you're growing them in a pot or whatever, I always say put about 3 seeds to a pot, and if they all germinate, that's fine. Literally, the plants are just going to support each other in growth, but they will still put on a ton of green beans, you all. And we have done a 50-foot row. So if you're growing the striped green beans, and the striped green beans and the red, the royal burgundy green beans, they're both bush type, all right? Meaning they're gonna grow in the form of these little compact plants that may get about 2 feet tall, 2 to 2.5 feet tall. These little compact plants that is just going to be just that, a little bush. All right, now we do have a pole bean variety on our seed shop as well. I think we have a Kentucky Wonder pole bean, and for those, people tend to trellis the pole beans, of course, because you don't want them running all over the ground, so you would probably trellis those. But even though you don't have to bend over to harvest your pole beans and all of that, because you know they'll just be growing up, even in that, I still think the bush produces way more than any pole bean I've ever grown as well, okay? And I've grown many different varieties of green beans, but I've stuck with the strike, I guess you could say, over, I don't know, the past 7 or 8 years. The strike green beans, I want to say 8 years, but I'm not positive. I want to say 8 years, but from the time I started growing strike green beans, the first time I planted them, I wasn't too sure about them. I think I planted them in a container, y'all. And in that container, I don't remember how many seeds I put in that container, but in that container, it was just beans everywhere. And I said, wow, this is probably what I should have planted. And I think at that time I was planting the Blue Lake bush variety, or it could have been a different bush variety, but the variety I was growing then was a very common variety of a bush bean, and they just didn't do as well in the ground as the strike did in the pot. And I knew from that moment on, if I'm gonna grow green beans, this is what I'm growing right here, right? And so last year we planted the strike. I saved a ton of seeds. And actually what I did was I allowed all of the plants to completely dry out and die back. And I had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of green bean pods that were dried on all of the plants, y'all. I had so many strike beans for seed this year, which is what I have put in the ground, okay? Now we do have the strike, we have the Kentucky Wonder pole, and we have the Royal Burgundy on our seed shop. I'm gonna pin that in the comment section because I posted in the description box, but sometimes some of you say you can't find it. So I'll just pin it in the comment section. It'll take you right to our seed shop. I think the Royal Burgundies are just about sold out, if not already sold out. But we do have plenty of jade, and we have some strike as well. And jade seems to be a favorite for so many. So I decided that I'm gonna plant some jade on this side in the garden, and just do a side-by-side taste test with Mr. H and just see if he can really tell a difference in the flavor. And if he can't really tell a difference in the flavor, I'm probably gonna cook some and have him to eat some raw and just see what he thinks. And if he notices a difference, then I'll continue to grow the jade along with the strike. But if he doesn't notice at all, then going forward, it'll only be strike that we grow here, because I know I can get 2 strong harvests, and I can harvest a third too, but that third harvest, because it starts getting hot, I wouldn't even bother. I'll just leave it on the plants let it keep producing as much as it wants to until the plant dies off, and I'll save all of those for seed. Okay, so y'all, that's gonna do it. That's why I like the strike so much, because it produces a ton of green beans. Y'all check out that video at the end of this video so you all can see what we got from, I think we did a 50-foot row, and we planted every foot, just about every foot. I don't know, I'll say at best we got about 45 plants out there. Okay, so with those 45 plants we produced a ton of green beans, but you don't need that many. If you constantly harvest your green beans as they start to produce, and don't let any of them dry out on the plant, all right? Because if you do, that's sending a signal to that plant that, oh, we need to fight for survival, right? This is survival mode now, right? So now we need to focus on reproducing ourselves, meaning to save as many seeds or produce as many beans as possible so that they can dry out. The plant is just going to start dying. So don't let your beans dry out and go to seed on the plant if you still intend to harvest, okay? But otherwise, you all, you can get yourselves even some grow bags. The little, I think it's a 5-gallon grow bag. They look like 1 gallon or 2 gallons to me, but they say they 5 gallons, and they are, because you could literally fit 5 gallons worth of soil in those bad boys. But I feel like I'm yelling because there's so much going on around and I'm talking so loud. And now here comes a plane. So anyway, you could get yourself some grow bags, you all, and you can plant about 3 to 4 seeds in a 5-gallon grow bag. Y'all will have a lot of green beans. Just remember, grow bags have to be watered more frequently because they do have a lot of air coming in from all sides, okay? Because they are breathable. All right, so y'all, that's gonna do it. I think this video is long enough. I just wanted to talk to you all about growing green beans. Well, let me say this. In growing green beans, you all, I always, in the hole that I plant the green beans in, I know that green beans, just like corn, is a nitrogen fixing type of plant, right? They put nitrogen into your soil. However, I'm trying to get green growth and I'm also trying to get the beans to grow as well, right? So I always do the same thing. I add my feather meal or blood meal into the hole, and I add bone meal into the hole, and I mix that in well, and then I'll pop in a little bit of black cow on top of that and make a little dibble or a little, little pocket to hold my beans, and I'll drop them in, and then I just pinch the soil back around and make sure they get watered in. Now, the irrigation is on out here, right? And I had the irrigation running before I planted the beans because I wanted the soil to be moist, because I did not pre-soak the beans this time. Last time I pre-soaked them, which was not good because of all the rain and the cold temperatures. So that was a recipe for disaster. So this time I did not pre-soak them. I just allowed the soil to get moist from the irrigation, and then I dropped them in because we're expecting rain, not today, but in the next couple of days we're expecting a lot of rain. The temperatures are going to stay in the 60s, but we're expecting rain. And when I say 60s, I'm talking about overnight temps. That's going to allow the soil to stay warm, because the green beans don't like cold. They will not do well in cold soil. They do not like that, all right? So the soil temps need to be warm as well. So the soil temperatures right now are pretty good overnight, and the temperatures overnight are just in the low to mid 60s all night long. And that is a great recipe, the heat, for the green beans, because once you water them during the day, they're gonna put on that growth. You're gonna start seeing them sprout. Now, when do I water my green beans? In the summertime, I would typically water this garden. In the summertime, I would water it in the evenings. And how long is going to depend on the temperatures. The hotter it is, the longer I will allow that drip irrigation to stay on, so that it can fully saturate the soil, and then I'll turn it off, and the green beans have an opportunity, and the green beans, the tomatoes, the peppers, and the okra, the corn, all of it has an opportunity to drink from that moisture, right, all night long. It's not soggy wet, but it's very, very moist, and they have an opportunity to drink from that all night long, because as the temperatures rise, it starts getting extremely hot by 9 a.m. in the morning, right? And so that moisture will evaporate if there's no mulch. And I'm seriously considering bringing some hay over and just mulching around the base of the plant to kind of help hold that moisture in even throughout the day, okay? So we'll see. But y'all, that's pretty much what I do with the green beans. I don't fertilize them anymore after that. No, I don't fertilize them anymore after that. They pretty much do their own thing after that, okay? In fact, my entire garden is like that. My entire garden is like that. I fertilize once, and then afterwards, it just pretty much does its own thing. And I don't bother with fertilizing 2 or 3 times throughout the growing season. I just leave them to do what they're gonna do, and they do well. Now the corn, however, I am gonna come back and hit it with some 511, that fish emulsion. I'm gonna come back and hit that corn probably every other week or so, right? Because I really want that corn to put on some really good growth. And then at a certain point, I will stop feeding the corn the nitrogen, but we'll talk about that in the update on the corn video, okay? All right, y'all, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you all are really enjoying us, taking you all along with us as we grow the garden for 2023. And we're trying our best to be more specific with what we are doing, hoping that we are answering your questions in the video. But if it's anything that we missed, just post your question down in the comment section below. And if we are unable to get to your question, believe me, some of the experienced gardeners that also follow our channel, they will be more than happy to help you. All right, y'all? So that's going to do it for this video, you all. If you haven't done so already, please give our video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos we upload to our channel. And thank you all again for watching Homestead Heart. Peace and blessings to each and every one of you, and I'm going to see y'all in the next video. Y'all, I'm going to get back to work. I still have more to do before the rain comes. Hopefully, each and every one of you are out there growing your groceries. Oh, y'all like the Happy Garden shirt? The Happy Garden shirt? I love it. This is down below, okay? Along with our other shirts in our garden journal, this is down below in our little merchandise shop. Grab your Happy Garden shirt. I just love it. What does it say? Serving size. One awesome garden. It is, let me see. The daily value is me being me, 1,200%. And then creativity, 200%. Passion, 200%. Love is on overdose, right? Healthy soil, 1,000%. Laziness, 0, because we ain't got time for that. And last but not least, daily values may be higher or lower depending on the motivation and the mood of the gardener. But one thing we ain't got time for is to be lazy. All right, let's get back to work.